Hi, I'm Dr. R.G. Allen. Hi, I'm Dr. R.G. Allen Wilson. You may recognize me as a leading relationship expert for TV programs such as CNN, The Today Show, Good Day Philly, Fox 29, Tamron Hall Show, Mel Robbins Show, and local and national radio shows, just to name a few. I want to invite you to a very awesome opportunity that will enhance your life. Having courageous conversations that connect is key for a healthy relationship with ourselves and others. Knowing the right strategies and techniques aren't as simple as we think. There are principles to understanding how we all think and feel. Right now, you can join in my free quarantine talks to learn what others spend thousands of dollars in therapy to know. Each day, while we are in quarantine at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can watch, listen, and learn tips that will help you get through this challenging time in our lives. Here's the good news. There is absolutely no cost for you to participate. Tune in on YouTube, Facebook, and the Gram at Ask Dr. RG. I look forward to seeing you join our crew. And that's connecting relationships for epic wins. Have a beautiful day on purpose. From my heart to yours. Woo. Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is yours truly, Dr. RG. Welcome to the Courageous Conversations Connect Space Quarantine Talks. Today is October 7th, 2020. This is, I don't know, where are we at? This is our 79th episode. Goodness gracious. Maybe 29 weeks into this. Morgan and I were on a little vacation last week. We had a wonderful time. So thank you for being patient that we were not on, but I missed you guys. It's been a little bit of an adjustment to go to the once a week and then sort of figure out how we navigate everything else. But we are here. And so welcome to the show. I see BJ. Good morning, BJ. We already have been in communication this morning. Charlotte, good morning. I see Deborah. Hey, Deborah, good morning. Good to see you. Listen, do me a favor, guys. You know, this is the drill. All I ask from the crew is to share this. Share this video, tag a friend, let other people know that we're on. Gone over to the YouTube page if you haven't already, or tell somebody else to join the YouTube page. Hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the page and hit the notification bell so that you get notifications that we're on. And we're going to rock this out. Good morning, Jen. It's good to see you too. Love you. Good morning, Stephanie. Thank you for joining. So we got a great show for you all today. We are talking about, you all know that we are, 27 days out from the election on November 3rd. A lot has gone on since the last time that we talked. So we're going to talk about that. But our topic today is connecting your heart to your vote. And I don't know if y'all can see my shirt. This is my shirt. Vote. I'm saying vote like your life depends on it, because it does. It absolutely does. Michelle Obama said that yesterday in her video, and I 1,000% agree with her. So IG family, thank you and welcome. Facebook family, thank you and welcome for joining. YouTube family, thank you and welcome for joining. We are talking about connecting your heart to your vote. We are 27 days out from November 3rd. Early voting has already begun in many states, including Pennsylvania. And we need to vote our conscience, but we also need to connect our hearts to our voices and our vote, right? And so let's do that. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do our breathing. So think about, we haven't stopped doing that. Think about who you're breathing for and with, right? And then how you're going to exercise that throughout the day. We're going to do our breathing exercises, and then we're going to get into our conversation. And we have some special guests that are coming on towards the end of our show to talk about a special event that's taking place this weekend honoring John Lewis, amazing Congressman John Lewis, amazing icon who left us some amazing words. So we will be right back. Stay with us. Yeah. Hey, this is Dr. RG here. Yours truly. Welcome to the Courageous Conversations Connect Space Quarantine Talks. We're talking today specifically about connecting your heart to your vote. We're 27 days out from the major election on November 3rd, 2020. I think just 2020 is one for the records, right? Everybody says throw out 2020. I'm like, no. Let's not throw out 2020 because 2020 has so much to teach us. Have we not learned a heck of a lot about ourselves in 2020 in the midst of two pandemics, COVID-19 that's still here, right? That pandemic is raging. Dr. Fauci talked about a second wave. I think that second wave is happening because people haven't done the wearing masks and social distancing and washing their hands, some very basic things that we could all be doing to help ourselves and help other people. And many people aren't doing it. So we have that. And then we have the pandemic of the racial unrest, the systemic racism, the social and racial unjust and inequities that have permeated the atmosphere for over 401 years, right? So we have the collision of that. And then we have this election, probably one of the most polarized elections of my lifetime, as I've seen it, where the divisiveness and the destruction and the, quite frankly, just distraction, weapons of mass distraction have been pervasive. And we are not doing the necessary things as I believe patriots and citizens to move forward with a decent and a fair election, voting our conscience. And that's why I wanted to talk about today, how do we connect our hearts, connecting our hearts with our vote. Nobody can tell you who to vote for. You know, that is a personal decision that everyone has to make for themselves. But I can say that as a family therapist, as a relationship expert, as someone who's committed, as a mental health professional, someone that's committed their life to the work of helping people heal, I can tell you that we've moved to a very, very dark place in American history. And each one has to search their heart. No one can legislate it for you. You have to legislate your own heart, and you have to connect that with your vote that matters, and your voice matters. And our next generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they are depending on us as the adults to know better. They actually are depending on us to do better. We should be setting the marker, right? We should be setting the model for how we behave, not just as red and blue states or as black and white people, but as humans that care about each other, and humans, quite frankly, that care about this nation, that can be a more perfect union if we just cared about each other. Mahatma Gandhi said, we must be the change that we wish to see in others. So how about you? What are you doing? I see Sydney. Hey, good morning, Sydney. Thank you for joining. Jen says yes. She's got her ballot for early voting. That's awesome. And she's also in the process of being trained to be a poll worker, wearing her mask and voting, wearing her t-shirt, all that good stuff. Awesome. So this is the thing. Every person has to get in the game. We have to stay in the fight. This is not the time to sit back on the sidelines. This is not the time to get too tired. I know that we're exhausted. We've got quarantine fatigue, even though many people are not in quarantine. But let's say we got pandemic fatigue. We have social distancing fatigue. We have physical touch hunger. We have a lot of things that are taking over, quite frankly, our mental health. And not feeling so well, but we've got to stay in the fight, and we've got to support each other. Our crew here is about connecting relationships for epic wins. And so how do we do that? We stand together. We show up together. We speak up together for each other, because we are what? We are stronger together. And it's having these courageous conversations that will connect us, even as we are 27 days out from this major, epic election. And there's a lot of things that are going on. There's a lot of disinformation going on, misinformation. So we've got to keep calm. We've got to stay focused. We've got to be consistent with our messaging. And every single vote matters. Connecting our hearts to our votes and using our voice, that is our power. So that being said, it's 10:10. This is a perfect time for us. IG family, thank you so much for joining. Facebook family, YouTube family. Let's go into our breathing exercise. You all know what we do. We breathe. We say in the chat, who are we breathing for and with, right? We begin the process after I count to 3, breathing in through our nose for anybody that's new to the platform and out through our mouth. We hold it for 8 seconds because we have not forgotten George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Rayshard Brooks and Breonna Taylor and so many others that have perished due to police brutality, right? We have not forgotten, quite frankly, the many others that are dealing with gun violence and physical abuse and sexual abuse and, the trauma and the drama that is ensuing in our communities, in our lives, and in our families, and in our relationships. So there's a lot. We have not forgotten the 210,000 people in the United States and many more abroad that have literally lost their lives for COVID because of COVID-19. And in particular in the United States, because we failed to act quickly and swiftly that could have saved more lives, and we're still doing it. So we are breathing for much of this. I personally, I'm continuing to breathe for those essential workers that are out there. They are still putting their lives on the line in the midst of a pandemic that is not over and won't be over anytime soon. I'm breathing for all of those persons that have no other choice but to go on their jobs and put themselves on the line. Billy Joe is breathing for all the kids struggling with virtual learning. That's great, BJ, really, because there are many kids. And let's just not, exclude the parents that are home working and trying to homeschool their children or trying to help their children deal with the virtual learning, as well as, quite frankly, the kids that are going into hybrid. So they're going back to school, but they're concerned. I was having a session last night with a couple who were trying to figure out whether their child would go back to a hybrid learning, maybe 2 days in school, 2 days in online learning, or 3 days in online learning. And there was some division, right? The division was one of the, parents was scared and wanted their child to stay in home, do online learning, even though that's very difficult. And we know that creates more isolation and more mental health issues as well. And another parent was wanting their child to go to hybrid. So they had to try to figure it out. So there's a lot on the line. There's a lot to risk these days. Jen says she's breathing for her cousin, Frank, that has sarcoidosis. He had COVID-19 back in April. His kidneys shut down. And I know we are having a miracle working God. He will get through this. Thank you for that, Jen. So we're praying for Frank, who had COVID back in April. I also want to keep up a friend of mine and a colleague. His name is Dr. John Taylor. He's on his way to becoming a doctor. So I already put that out there in the atmosphere. But his brother had COVID, and he's been on 2 forms of life support for the last 90 days. They've taken him off of 1 form of life support. So that's good news, but he's still in the fight. And so I talked to him yesterday, and I want to keep him up in our prayers, as well as breathe for him as well. Okay. Charlotte says she's breathing for the election, that everything works out. Good thing, because they're having a debate tonight, the vice president and the vice president candidate, Kamala Harris, as well as Vice President Pence. That will be tonight. I think it's airing around 7-ish, if you will, Eastern Standard Time. So that'll be an interesting debate. So let's get into our stance. I want you all to get relaxed as much as you can. Put your middle finger to your thumb, or one hand over the next on your lap, or 2 hands on your side. IG family, stay with us. Facebook family, YouTube family. And at the sound of my voice, we're going to do this 5 times. I'm going to count to 3. We're going to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Also, remember, we're breathing oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, but we're also breathing hope and love and peace and serenity and calm in as you close your eyes and imagine that. And we're breathing out fear and worry and anxiety and frustration and resentment and anger. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in. And out. And last time, make it count, crew. Breathe in. And out. Good. Feel that in the belly. Feel the air in the lungs and all the essential organs. Continue to do that throughout the day. Every time you think about it, take in a deep breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. It helps to build lung capacity. It helps to bring in oxygen to the body. Most of us do not realize how shallow our breathing is. So we need oxygen. We know that those people that are suffering with COVID-19, much of what this virus does is it attacks the lungs, right? And so people can't breathe, but we're learning more and more about it. And so it's not just that it attacks the lungs, it attacks the brain, it causes blood clots, it attacks the kidneys, essential organs. Think about that. Essential workers, essential organs. We cannot live if we don't have the essential organs within our body that are functioning at the highest capacity. And this little strand of a virus impacts all of that. So we need to try to stay as healthy as we can. We need to lift up other people. And that's what I want to talk about as well in terms of connecting our heart with our vote, and then voting with our voice, utilizing our voice to vote. Helen's on, thank you. Yes, I am back, and I'm glad to be back. I missed everyone. And these are trying times. So let me tell you all, I know y'all have been paying attention, right? That's what's going on. There are specific hotspots that are happening in the United States, right? We knew that was going to happen. In New York, they shut down some parts of New York, I believe in Brooklyn and some other areas that have been hotspots. So they're trying to get ahead of it. We also know that there's a hotspot in the White House. So Morgan and I were away on vacation, and we got the news that there was a hot spot in the White House that, what's her name, Hope Hicks, had come down with the virus. And we knew that that was going to begin to spiral out of control. And, you know, not too long after that, we got the tweet. Everyone knows that the president has come down with COVID-19 and is still tweeting away after a few days in the hospital, back in the White House, and not doing the due diligence to keep not only himself, but his family, the people that work for him and with him, and the American people safe. So here's what I would say about this. This is where we have to show up, right? Y'all remember, if for those of you who've been on this platform before, you remember Slack, right? Y'all remember Slack? Somebody tell me in the chat what Slack, cutting ourselves some slack, stands for, because that's what we need to do. We need to double down and level up on cutting ourselves some slack, staying in the fight, and focusing on the clear and concise information, because there's a lot of disinformation out there, right? And we've got 27 days to get to November 3rd and make our vote count. connecting our heart to our vote and elevating our voices. We need to amplify our voices, right? So I said, tell me in the chat, and Morgan put it up on the screen. So it's not a, a surprise, if you will, but show up, right?
Sorry.
Okay, I couldn't hear Morgan for a minute, but that's okay. So SLAT, show up, right? The S stands for how are we showing up? The S, if you will. The L stands for listen, learn, and lead. Listen, learn, and lead. DJ put it up there too, right? Leadership is the key. The A is acknowledgement. We got to acknowledge the truth, guys, right? We are in trouble if we can't even be honest with the truth and the facts, right? Of not only the systemic racism that has occurred for 401 years, but this other pandemic, COVID-19, and the impact that it's having on Black and Brown communities all across the country, all across the world. We've got to acknowledge that, and that we've not done the greatest job of attacking this head on in order to mitigate the fallout of 210 people that didn't have to die. We've got to acknowledge that so we can move forward. And then we've got to commit. We are absolutely in a fight right now. And if we're going to make our voice count, if we're going to connect our heart with our votes and amplify our voices on November 3rd and beyond, and also early voting has already begun. So many people have making a decision to vote early. That means we have to commit. No matter how tired we are, no matter how frustrated we are, no matter how fearful we are, we have to stay in this fight and commit to it. And then lastly, you all know what I'm going to say, right? Some people might think it's very Pollyannish, but my mother used to say it's important. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. We've got to be kind to one another. The vitriol, the hatred, the dissension, the darkness, the labeling, and the bullying has got to stop, because we're better than this. We as human beings are better than this, and we can connect our hearts to our votes in order to amplify our voices. So here's what I want to do. We are going to bring on some guests a little bit later to talk about a specific event that's happening in the Philadelphia area honoring John Lewis. But if you guys remember, John Lewis left instructions for us. Can you imagine? 2 days before he transitioned, he actually left a letter for us and a petition for us to actually do the work, right? He basically said, this is up to you to stay in this fight. He said, this is up to all of us, that his work was done, but that we needed to stay in good trouble, necessary trouble. We needed to not quit. We needed to not turn around. We needed to stay focused, full speed ahead, and do the necessary work of making sure that we connected our heart with our vote to amplify our voice. I want y'all to say that, right? That we all together can connect our heart with our vote to amplify our voices. We can win this. John Lewis said it. We know the notorious RBG said it, right? Yeah. No, RBG said it, right? I always get the word, the letters wrong. And you know, each of us matters. Our voices matter, our votes matter, who we love and who we are working so hard for matters. And in this most important election in 2020, our vote matters. So I want to talk about what your plan is. Please tell me in the chat what your plan is. Michelle Obama, she's my FLOTUS, First Lady of the United States. She said in her video, and she said several months ago, right, when they were when the DNC was a part of our atmosphere, if you will, she said, have a plan. take a lunch, pack a lunch, stand in line, do early voting if you need to. We want to get out clear and concise, consistent information so that we can all stay calm, right? So if you're early voting, have you registered? There are deadlines to register, and I believe it's October 19th. We're not there yet. You could still register for early voting if you so chose. Ballots are already coming out in many states. Many early voting polls have already opened, so there are some people that have actually already voted. Here in the District of Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, we have 17 what they're calling satellite election centers where you can actually go in and take your ballot and you can deposit it at that time. Out of the 7, I have my notes here. I believe that out of the 17, rather, there are 7 that are open already now. City Hall, George Washington High School, the Lee Corps Center, Roxborough High School, Titan Middle School, Julia de Burgos Elementary School, and Overbrook Elementary School. Those are already open and they're scheduled to open up more. In those early voting satellite centers, you can actually either take your ballot that you've already gotten in the mail if you don't want to mail it, or you can actually register right then and there, one-stop shopping, wait, get your ballot, fill it out, and turn it in. You can do that. There are hours, they're open 7 days a week. I'll tell you in hours in a minute. Or if you decide, whatever your plan is, that you want to go on election day, let's say you registered for early voting, you got your ballot, and you don't trust the mail, and you don't want to take it to a drop box, and my understanding is that the drop boxes are not open in Philadelphia yet, but there are some drop boxes in other places that are opening up, like in Montgomery County and other districts, if you will. But if you decide, no, I just want to go on election day, you can actually take the ballot that you got from the mail, right, that you got delivered to you, to your election site on November 3rd. Make sure you take a chair if you're an older person or even a younger person and there may be a line. Take a chair so that you can sit in line. Make sure you mask up. Make sure you have your hand sanitizer, your gloves if you need them so that you can be protected. And when you take the ballot, they will spoil the ballot, right? They'll spoil it so that then discards that. Then you can go into the booth and vote like everyone else on election day. They will allow you to do that. If you somehow forget your ballot, you can actually apply for get with it, but the name will come to me. There's another kind of ballot that you can apply for, and you can then vote. But my hunch is I wouldn't really go that path if you want, if you will. And make sure, because there's some litigation around naked ballots, make sure that the envelope that they give you, that the envelope is inside the envelope so that it's confidential. The actual ballot is not going to be valid if you don't put it inside the envelope that they give you and then put that inside the ballot. They will see that as a naked ballot, if you will. So there's a couple of people that are saying how they're going to vote. BJ said she's already voted. I voted, she said, in person in September. Shout out to BJ, who's already cast her vote. Awesome, BJ. Thank you very much. I know that you voted, connected your heart to your vote. Sylvia says, yes, she received her ballot and mailing it back this week. Awesome. So we've got 2 votes in the crew that are already putting their votes out there, and your vote counts, your voice counts. Deborah says, received my ballot yesterday in the mail. The governor of Texas has severely limited the drop boxes here. Voter suppression for sure. I noted, I was watching the news yesterday and was listening to someone who talked about that they only have drop boxes in like 1 per district or something like that. Really, really crazy. But that doesn't matter. We are going to forge ahead. So Deborah, tell me, then you got your ballot. How are you going to send it in the mail? Do you have in Texas early satellite election centers, or are you going to take it on November 3rd? What are you going to do? Jan Coker. Hey, Jan. Hey, Jan. Good morning.
She said, I applied for the ballot and waiting for it. I will drop it off at the drop box center. Okay. But I'm thinking of voting in person on election day. I got you. So the thing about it is, if you actually, like I said, if you're thinking about voting on election day, just make sure in your district that they will allow you to take your ballot to the polls on election day, and then they'll spoil that, and then you will be able to vote. But you want to make sure, because districts are different, that they will allow you to do that. And if they won't, then my hunch is that my recommendation is that you go to one of those satellite voting centers, if you will. Oh, provisional ballot. That is the name that I was thinking about. It's a provisional ballot to IG family, Facebook family, YouTube family. And if you don't have your ballot and you go on election day and you've already applied for an early mail-in ballot and you didn't get it for some reason, or you've forgotten it and you go on election day, you can apply for a provisional ballot. And then that ballot hopefully will be counted. But sometimes what I've heard is that the provisional ballots seem to be counted last, and sometimes there's some funky stuff that goes on with them. So that would not be the option that I would take if I were you. I would definitely, if you decided to go in on election day, make sure that you take your ballot with you and make sure that it's in the envelope. I don't see it. I don't see it. But oh, here it is. This is what I had for the primaries, right? They haven't sent me my ballot yet. They did send Morgan his ballot, but I've called several times and they say that it's on the way. And what's interesting is you've got to like put the ballot in an envelope and then stick that envelope in this envelope and seal it. So make sure that you do it. Otherwise, they will say that it is a naked ballot and then they will not count it. Deborah says, oh, you're dropping it off early. Don't care how far you have to drive. Got it. Excellent. So, I think that I want, as you all think about your plan, I want y'all to think about those persons who, have shed their blood, sweat, and tears for us to be able to vote. Voting was not a given for Black people, for sure. Wasn't that long that we did not have the right to vote, right? I think there was in August, we had the 55th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, but prior to that, we were not allowed to vote. And less than 100 years ago, women weren't allowed to vote. So people shed their blood, sweat, and tears for us to vote. I want you to think about that and how it is an honor and a privilege. And quite frankly, it is our right. When we come back, we're going to talk about how we're feeling, because we need to get our mental capacity right in order for us to forge ahead, cutting ourselves some slack and staying committed to the fight, connecting our hearts with our votes. We'll be right back, so stay with us. Hey, this is Dr. RG here, yours truly, for the Courageous Conversations Connect Space Quarantine Talks. Yep, today is December 7th. Oh, December 7th. I feel like it's December 7th. I feel like it's Groundhog Day, quite frankly, some days. This is October 7th. This is 27 days from the election, November 3rd. And we are in our 79th episode, I believe. Yep, 79th episode of this show. I thank you all for joining. Make sure that you let other people know that we're on. We come on every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We were doing every week, and then kind of many people had to go back to work and do various things. So now we're here on once a week. But even though we're here once a week, we've been working hard. We took a little vacation, Morgan and I. We had a wonderful time. We needed to kind of decompress and exhale. Now we're back in the saddle, and we're preparing for more content for you all. We're going to be doing more things on YouTube. We're doing more. We're preparing for a masterclass. I'm working on the next book. There's a lot of things that we're actually doing. So I want you guys to stay tuned and spread the word that we are trying really, really hard to make our message and our voice count by helping in this space, right? We always ask that, ask the question, are you helping to harm or healing the hurt? Well, our goal is to, help relationships, right? One relationship at a time, and transform individuals, couples, and corporations one courageous conversation at a time. So I want to shift gears for a moment and ask you all, before we bring on our guest to talk about a particular event that's taking place. How are you feeling? I think, I've been having a lot of sessions lately and really tapping into people's emotions, because I do think that we need to not ignore how we're feeling. Sometimes we're in a space of emotional dysregulation, meaning that we don't know what we're feeling. Or there are times when we just block ourselves from our emotions because we're so afraid that, we can't handle those emotions. And sometimes we just dismiss all the array of emotions that we might be feeling. I find people tend to do like two emotions, mad and sad. And if we don't want to be sad, then we just get mad. And my thing is, like, it's okay to be mad. It's even okay to be angry. Quite frankly, I think we should be angry about what's going on. We have now 6-7 months into this COVID-19 pandemic, 210 deaths that didn't have to be. That should make us mad. We also have multiple people on a daily basis getting brutalized in the street due to police brutality, but also due to gun violence in the communities. And that doesn't have to be. That should make us mad. We have children being abused, right? That shouldn't have to be. I came across a article or yesterday of a child being abused, and I had to pray for the child who is no longer here at the hands of her father because she was abused. That made me mad. But here's what I would say about our emotions. We've got to figure out how to channel those emotions. And as I said early on in this platform, we have to learn how to turn our pain into power when we appreciate the process. We have to turn pain into power when we appreciate the process. And what does that look like? Well, for me, that looks like identifying it. Have any of you, okay, pain and Morgan was showing something that was smaller and I couldn't read it, so I made the screen bigger. But we also have to recognize that in these days where we are dealing with misinformation and disinformation, that it's very difficult and oftentimes we can get exhausted. But if we do the necessary things to manage ourselves, manage those emotions, acknowledge those emotions, recognize those emotions, and then care for those emotions, right? Like if I'm angry, then I need to be able to journal that, externalizing those emotions, not keeping them inside, and then helping myself to grow through it to the other side. And then talking about process, well, everybody has to have a process. What will you do to help yourself? What will you do to take care of yourself? Y'all know that I speak a lot about self-care. Self-care is essential in times like this. Because if you don't care for yourself, if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, do your mindfulness and your meditation and your movement and your meaningful engagement, listen to your music, do the necessary things to help you. Maybe that it means going out into, the outside and taking in the fresh air, breathing, getting some vitamin D, hydrating yourself, eating well, taking positive information in, detoxing from the news sometime. All that is extraordinarily important for you to take care of yourself. And in the midst of that, well, I also think that we have to support one another. Again, this is what the crew is all about. It's supporting one another. And right before we invite our next guest on, I want to read something to you and see if it resonates. You all tell me if it resonates. It's from, of course, Courageous Conversations Connect. And it's from week 5. It says, speak life, right? Life stands for love, words of love, integrity, freedom, and energy. It goes, have you ever thought about the opportunity we all have to speak either life or death into people? It's really our choice. The power of words matter, and we can speak life into ourselves and others with one decision to lift up versus put down. In a world where we are encouraged to not be kind and affirming to others while highlighting the worst of someone's limitations, titanic plates can shift with one decision to use words to help and not hurt those words encounter daily, those we encounter daily. Besides, it takes much more energy to be mean-spirited than kind-spirited. My mother used to say, as I said, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. So ask yourself the question, are your words, actions, and deeds helping to harm or healing the hurt? If you answered yes to the former, there is still time to right the ship. Make a decision to use your words for good, not evil, for affirmation, not degradation, to cast light, not darkness, and to make a difference versus contributing to chaos, disruption, and despair. You won't regret making a decision to take action to embark on a journey of healing. You and me, all of us, can make a difference in this world by simply you can make a difference in the world make the world better because you made a decision to speak life. What about that? Speaking life. It matters. You matter. Our words matter. Our actions matter. Our belief that we can do this, we can connect our hearts with our vote and amplify our voices that matter. And it's not just us. How many of you have called a senior up or called a young person up, invited them to get in the fight, invited them to vote? There is still time. October 19th is still several days away. You can still register to vote. I heard that there was over 1 million people that voted, that registered to vote in the month of September. That's unprecedented. There is still time. Don't get too discouraged. You matter and you can make a difference because we all got skin in this game. As my good friend that's about to come on says, that we're all in a storm, but just maybe in different boats. But the storm is still happening for all of us. So let's right this ship. Let's make our vote matter by connecting our hearts to our votes. Well, it's almost 10:45. We were supposed to be bringing on some guests. So I'm going to ask Morgan okay, I see our guests. There they are. I couldn't see you for a moment. Hi.
Hi.
Well, I am excited to invite Lauren Hahn, who is a good friend of mine and also a wonderful clinician that I've worked with at Drexel for many years. And we continue to work together and toil in the space of helping people to heal. And her daughter, Raquel, am I saying that correct? Raquel,
Yeah.
who is from what I understand, a brilliant scholar and actress, and doing many other things like traveling the world and exploring and certainly making a difference in your community. So we have both of them on to share what is going to be happening this weekend in the space to honor John Lewis. So without further ado, not only do I want to welcome you and I'm excited for you to be a part of the crew, but I want you to tell us about the event that's happening and why it is that you thought that this would be a person to honor in reference to Cycle to Vote.
Yeah, RG, thank you so much. It's really great to be with you again. So the event is this Saturday, October 10th, we will be, riders will be gathering, cyclists from all over the city. We have bike groups, Major Taylor, Pedal Posse Divas, Kings Rule Together, Bicycle Club of Philadelphia, members of Sturdy Girls, Women on Wheels in Wissahickon. All of the bike groups in the city have been alerted about this event, as well as other people in the community. We have people from Esperanza joining us. We have people from, all over the city. We have distributed these shirts. So hopefully many of you out there who might be listening who have shirts.
Oh, I see the shirt. Right? Okay.
Enon, your church, Enon, many of the Enon members have shirts. We hope you'll come out and join us. I do want to just mention that the afternoon, which was supposed to happen with Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity and the Divine Nine, has been turned into a virtual event. So if you would like to participate in that, there was some concern that there would be too many people. So our event is really a bike ride, and we're going to be sending groups of cyclists out on 3 different rides around the city. One ride will be a Center City ride, and we'll stop at many of the iconic places in Philadelphia, including Love Park and the Rocky Statue. We'll also be stopping at the Leocora Center, which is one of the satellite voting locations. And at those locations, we're actually going to have some singers. So we'll be rallying the riders. That will feature a group called River Rock, which we're very excited to be partnering with. Really songs about empowerment, empowering women, lifting our voices in song, and using our voices to vote. The other ride will go through West Philly, and that ride will also have at least 2 stops where riders will have materials to give to the public, to engage with voters, to answer questions, to disseminate far and wide this good voting information that you were sharing to people who might not be getting it. So we're hoping that that ride will go through Fairmount Park. It's a beautiful ride. There's an amazing view of the city. They'll come back, they'll pick up the Bala Cynwyd Trail, and they'll come back through Manayunk, back to Boxers Trail, where all these rides will begin and end. The last ride will be joining up with the Pedal for Peace ride, which is being held by, I'm just forgetting her name, the state rep. It'll come to me. But that ride is in Strawberry Mansion. Yes, that ride is in Strawberry Mansion, and we'll be traveling around the neighborhood at a lot of different locations, stopping and interacting with people. So if you live in those neighborhoods and you want to come out, these riders will be coming through. Everyone will be wearing a shirt. We have buttons to give away to the community, to community members. So, and then at the end, everyone will return to Boxers Trail, where we'll have sort of hosted by River Rock, kind of a little song fest, a song circle, socially distant. Everyone will be at least a bicycle distance away from one another. We have masks for people to stay safe. And we're just going to lift our voices in song. And that will be, the whole thing will come to an end at about 1 o'clock.
Oh, that sounds lovely. That sounds lovely. And tell me a little bit, and I'm certainly interested in what Raquel has to say about your age generation, right? Like, you know, you're a part of, are you Gen Z or millennial?
I am right at the very tail end of millennial.
Okay, very tail end of it. So you're kind of both. You're kind of like a hybrid, right?
24.
And so, yeah. So tell me about like John Lewis for your generation. I was speaking a little bit before you all came on about the message that he left, you know, and it still gives me chills to think about someone on their deathbed, literally transitioning. And yet 2 days before he transitioned, he writes a letter to the next generation to say, I'm passing the baton here and the rest is up to you. And that I've done my best in my generation, but you've got to stay in the fight. So what does that mean for your generation, Raquel, in terms of a John Lewis message to you all? And how have you maybe rallied other friends of yours or peers to like get involved and stay engaged?
You know, it's a conversation that my friends and I have been having a lot more frequently. You know, what is our position in the movement that's happening right now? And I think it's really easy for young people to underestimate the power that we have. But I think, especially in the past months, what we've seen, like in the streets, in the protests, is that when we really come together, it's incredible the change that we can make and the attention that we can bring. And I think, you know, with John Lewis passing and with RBG passing, it shows that, you know, people dedicate their entire life to creating change and serving other people. You know, John Lewis and RBG, you know, they worked solely for their communities and for the greater good. And I think right now, especially in the age of social media, it's so easy to be so self-centered and, you know, how does this impact me? And stop there. And I think both of them show, and John Lewis especially, show, you know, how important it is to go, you know, one or two or many, many, many steps further than just yourself and really think, how can I impact other people? And, you know, there's so much anxiety and worry and fear right now. And, you know, I think when you can shift your focus to others instead of how anxious and worried and scared you feel, and, you know, try and take action, it really helps to alleviate some of that fear.
Yeah, I love that. I love, because, you know, for me as a therapist, and I know for your mom, I can assume that, you know, it's really giving people action steps, right? Sometimes when we are fearful and worried and we don't have a pathway, we don't know what the future is going to hold, we get sort of stuck in that fear, right? And we don't really know what to do with it. But sometimes I think that we can take the lead from those people who have paved the way where they were too fearful. It wasn't that they weren't fearful. It wasn't that John Lewis on that Prentice Bridge was not fearful. Literally, he was, you know, hit and beaten within an inch of his life, literally, where the pipe could have busted his skull. And yet he still persevered. And it's that type of fear. Your mom probably knows, like, my Shiro. I have two Shiros in the world, right? Besides my mother. One is, and my grandmother, who I'm named after. One is Harriet Tubman, because I feel that she did the thing that most humans wouldn't be able to do, like get free and then go back and save more people and put herself in harm's way. And then Dr. Marlene Watson, who is my mentor and friend, who I call HT2, right? I hope that one day somebody might call me HT3. But, you know, HT2 was this woman, Marlene Watson, who stood flat-footed in spaces in the academic settings and fought for people that look like me. And I can truly say I would not be here and have a PhD and be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Marlene Watson standing up for Black girls and boys and men and women that look like me to have a shot, to have a seat at the table. And so it's really not just raising your voices, but like you said, Raquel, taking action. What are the action steps after you've had all the courageous conversations? What are you going to do about it? And how are you going to stand up and speak up and show up? And I feel that that's what you all are doing with Cycle to Vote. You're not just saying, hey, this is a great idea. Like, you put action steps to your words. And then you said, okay, I want to make sure that not only do I just talk the talk, but you're walking the walk, or literally riding the ride, if you will. So what do you hope that will come of this, even post-election? Is there a vision for what you want from Cycle to Vote in terms of its messaging?
Well, I really do think that it's the message of John Lewis, and it is carrying on the message. It is being the people who take what he worked for and be responsible for his word and his work being carried on. And I do see this as going beyond, certainly beyond this weekend. Next weekend, we're doing a ride with a group in Doylestown, and we're working very hard right now to see if we can get our shirts out to cycling groups around the state. And this has been so, because it's new, it's been such an evolution. It's just, we just keep following the road that's being paved ahead for us. And this idea that we are creating momentum and spreading this word. And the word, as you said, the word is vote, and the word is love. And what we're doing here is spreading the love. And cyclists love to ride, and we ride because we create momentum, because we move fast, because we reach far distances, because we can climb hills, because we can really use our power to make a difference. And I really just felt like John Lewis was talking to me. He wrote in his book that when he first heard King speak, he said, "A light turned on in my heart. When I heard his voice, I felt he was talking directly to me." And when I read that essay, and then when I listened to the podcast that I heard from 2013 with Krista Tippett, I felt that he was talking directly to me. And he said, "This is what you should do." So I do feel like what we're doing is carrying on the word of John Lewis. I don't know where we will go exactly when we're done with this, but that's the intention.
That's awesome. When we think about all the social unrest and all of the racial unrest and all of the division, the vitriol, the hatred, the bullying that has taken place, sometimes it's hard to believe that we are 50 something years from what John Lewis experienced back during the civil rights movement. And so I wonder, we as Black men and women, Black and brown men and women need you. We need white allies. We need white men and women and children to partner with us for a greater and more perfect union, because we are all on this planet together. And I find that fear, like I call it the fear factor, can be the greatest distraction from us coming together with a common goal of being humane citizens and treating each other with fairness and kindness and humility. And so I am curious, when you think about your mission, your vision and your mission, when you thought about Cycle to Vote and John Lewis and now the notorious RBG rather, how do you talk with your peers, other white men and women, about becoming allies, especially if they have not thought about it before? Because I will say, when we had Mel Robbins on the show, I asked her a similar question, and she said she talked to her children, and she said her children basically said, "This is a hard conversation and it's uncomfortable." And Mel Robbins said something that I thought was so powerful. She said, "Yeah, I know it's uncomfortable, but if it's uncomfortable for you to talk about it, can you imagine how uncomfortable it is for Black people to live it?" So how do you work within yourself to have both the conversation with yourself, not to shy away from what's uncomfortable, and then the conversation with others to stay in it and not move away from it?
I think we both been doing a lot of that work.
Yeah. I think, it's so important as white people and as white women for us to talk to, like you said, our peers and the people in our community. And there's a lot of ignorance. And, like you were saying, people are like, "Oh, well, it makes me uncomfortable, so I'm not going to think about it." And, you know, I have really tried to talk to those friends or people who I encounter who say that and say, yeah, basically what you said, yeah, it is an uncomfortable conversation, but imagine how uncomfortable and scary it would be to live that. And, you know, it is our responsibility to take care of other humans. And with the issue of racism, I've been reading a lot, and I've found that very helpful because people think that they are informed. And I have found that some of the books I've read, So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Olua, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She goes through chapter by chapter and says, this is an argument that a lot of white people have, and this is how you disprove it. And I feel that being equipped with facts, so you're not really, it doesn't spiral out of control. You bring it back to the facts. And I just think, I also read, white people started this problem,
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to feel a responsibility to be involved and to find a solution. We can't just say, sorry, go deal with it on your own. I'm a little uncomfortable. We have to be able to, as you say, have those courageous conversations and lean into discomfort. I've had some conversations with my grandparents, and yeah.
The other thing is that I feel this has been an incredible opportunity. When we started Cycle to Vote, my co-founders and I, we were very committed that this was going to reach Black and Brown communities, and that I have been so moved and so touched by the warmth and the welcome and the friendship and the that with which I have been welcomed. And I want people to recognize that this is an opportunity to see that we are all one, and it is systemic racism that divides us. And that, as John Lewis says, we need to make peace with the fact that we are one. Really, so what? I mean, and that we all, as you said, RG, we all have skin in the game. We all have skin in the game. It doesn't matter what color our skin is. We all have skin in the game, and that we all have to stand up for one another and making sure that we all have our voices heard. We need to, and we as white people need to be allies to other people who have not had that opportunity, for whom it has not just been a given. We don't need to cycle into the suburbs and help the white people in the suburbs vote. They're set. We need to be into communities that have had historically and continue to have obstacles to getting good information, to be able to vote safely and easily and joyfully, right? That's what we all want to be able to do, is come together to raise our voices. And we need to hear all voices, because that's the only way we will know who really won this election. And it is my hope that that in this election, we have the largest voter turnout in the history of our country, so that we can really know who the rightful winner and who the people really want as the president of this country, and other lawmakers and legislators as well.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I think about the term super spreader.
Super spreader.
And, there's super spreaders. They're in the White House right now with COVID-19. And then there's super spreaders of systemic racism. And it's because we are fearful, and because we don't stay in the conversation.
That's
and
right.
Because we feel uncomfortable and we move away from it, is what I hear you saying. And I appeal to every human to partner with someone who looks different than you as well, and to get to know our experiences. And one of the most hurtful things, I believe, is to discount our experiences, or to say, so what, you're being too sensitive, when we've had 401 years of systemic racism and social injustice and inequity. And when you discount it, or when you dismiss it, or when you say, we're in a post-Obama era, so, get over it. Look where you live. You're okay. That discounts the experience that has certainly not been a fair and just world for everyone.
Indeed.
So there's some people in the crew that are kind of raising their hands based on what you guys are saying. So Larissa says, there's a question. I'm going to go back to that question, Morgan, in a minute. But can you go to Jan, Morg?
I just want to one thing we want to be. What we want to do is we want to be that super spreader. Cycle to Vote. We want Cycle to Vote to be the super spreader of love, the super spreader, right? Of love for all, of unity, of social justice, and of social justice. That's what we want to spread. That's what we are.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Love trumps hate, for sure. Jen said, yes, we need our white brothers and sisters as allies. Thank you both for all your efforts in spreading the word and sharing the love. So that's awesome.
Vote. The word.
And that vote, right. That's right. Don't hate, vote. Deborah says, very well said. She was talking about what you were saying, Raquel. And she says, Raquel, you bring me hope for your generation. Good job. So awesome. Awesome. Good job. And Larissa, so there's another question about, if I'm going to, there's another question about, Larissa says, and maybe you can help me with this, Lauren, what procedure, Morgan's a little behind, what procedure for an invalid person with a mail-in ballot, what's the procedure for it, unable to walk into the satellite? Do you know the answer to that?
Yes, I do have that answer. What that person needs is what's called a designation card. If you are unable to walk or get to the polls for any reason, you can designate someone to take your ballot with them. They need to have a designation card that they bring with them that is signed by you, that they hand in with your ballot. If you have a problem getting a designation card, we will have them this weekend with our Cycle to Vote riders. But you can go to City Hall. They have them, Lisa Dealey's office, Al Schmidt's office, Omar Sabir. They all have these. Should not be hard to get. So that's what you need, is just a designation card.
Okay, designation card. And can you get those designation cards on the website? Can you print them out?
That's a good question. I would imagine if you can't, you should be able to. And that's something that should happen ASAP. I imagine that you should be able to get them on the website, somewhere on Philadelphia.gov or PA Votes.
Gotcha. Okay. So we are going to take a quick break from our sponsors. We're going to come back, and I'm going to ask you all to give me your pearl of wisdom for the show, if you're okay with that. So you can think about that. Okay.
All right.
We'll be right back. All right, we have been talking to Lauren and Raquel Khan, and they've been sharing with us the event about Cycle to Vote and the John Lewis, their tribute there to John. It sounds like it's going to be a wonderful event on Saturday, and they're going to just carry this mission on to vote. Again, I always say, like, your life depends on it, because I believe that it does. You can get all this information. Lauren and Raquel will tell you how to get that information. And they're going to leave us with their jewel, their pearl of wisdom about how we connect our hearts to our votes. Please share.
Well, how I connect my heart to my vote is by saying something that John Lewis said, that we are one people, we are one family. And if we think of everyone as a part of our family, we need to vote for we vote for everyone who we love. everyone in our family. So
and people who
one
are
vote,
not in our
one
family. Oh, you're saying
John Lewis
metaphorically.
says, I'll read
Okay.
one last quote. John Lewis said, we all live together in the same house of this planet. We all live together in different rooms, perhaps, but under the same roof and within the same walls. If one section of our house begins to rot, a basement, a back door, a closed-off closet, the entire structure is in danger of collapsing. It is only by recognizing our unity that we can prevail.
I love it. I love it. So thank you for that. And Raquel?
I mean, how can you beat that? But this is also
This quote from Mother Teresa.
John Lewis, and he quotes Mother Teresa and saying, not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love.
Small things. I love it.
So spread love and vote.
Yeah, I just want to say that really, I think of Cycle to Vote as a small effort. We are very grassroots. We started with 5 people in my backyard, and all the things that everyone is doing, writing postcards, getting out there, making phone calls, everything that people are doing makes a difference. And we just need to keep on keeping on for this last sprint to the finish.
Absolutely. So 27 days, we're already in it. People are early voting. I say vote your voice, vote your valor, vote for victory. We've got to organize, be tenacious, have energy, plan, plot, strategize, mobilize, and we will get here together, right? And so I thank you both. Thank you for this to be on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You know,
you for the opportunity.
listen, Raquel, your mom is thebomb.com. I love her.
Oh, I know. A headlock.
So thank you guys, and we will talk later. Lauren and Raquel, it was wonderful to meet you.
All right.
Well.
Good to see everybody on Saturday.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, so that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Listen, this was a great show. If you all have any questions, you know, you can either put them in the chat or reach out to me through DM me on Facebook, or reach out as well through connect us at connectionsmatterllc.com. This was a great show about information. Every day, we're gonna be putting more and more information. As I get the information, as Morgan gets the information, we will be putting it out to you, even if it's not on a Wednesday, in some way, shape, or form, because we gotta stay informed. We gotta stay consistent, concise, and stay calm. A lot of disinformation out there, a lot of misinformation out there, but we will be in this together as one crew, connecting relationships for epic wins. So listen, it's been a great show. I love you guys. There is nothing you can do about it. Have a beautiful day on purpose, from my heart to yours.